Hey everybody, welcome back. This is kind of part two, I guess, kind of sort of my recent finds. My other video that I just did was a thrift find video. This is finds from my very first record fair of the year. I was super stoked to go. Had kind of a mixed bag of luck there, but I did manage to find a few pieces I'll share with you today. So let's get right into it. First off though, I have a couple of record store finds, kind of cheap bin, not too expensive ones. One of my last videos I was just showing the debut album by these guys. It is Cat Mother and the All Night Newsboys. I showed their debut, The Street Giveth and the Street Taketh Away, from 1969 I think it was, which was produced by Jimi Hendrix. They had formed in New York City, connected with Hendrix there, recorded the first album for Polydor. Then they moved over to the West Coast, San Francisco Bay Area, changed a few members around, and put out this next album called Albion Doo-Wah. And I got this, actually the very same store I found that other album. I guess maybe they came from the same previous owner. Very nice shape again. And this is recorded on the West Coast. You can tell right away that that rustic, back to the land, late hippie era vibe going on in the San Francisco area, and that's pretty much what it is here. I actually think this is a better album than the first one. It's more in that kind of country rock, bit of bluegrass on here, bit of a Grateful Dead influence with the kind of mandolins and violins leads and stuff. There's an instrument. The title track is an instrumental theme from Albion Doo-Wah, which is almost funky, but pretty nice album from these dudes. 1970 on this one, again on Polydor label. Very nice shape. $3 for this one, same price as the debut. At the same store in their cheap bins, I also picked up this one by Eumir Deodato, Brazilian composer, arranger. Whirlwinds. This one is 1974 on MCA Records. He kind of mixes covers of pop songs like, what do you got on here? Do It Again by Steely Dan sits right next to Ave Maria, with that kind of a disparate pairing there, but he adds kind of a jazz funk texture to all of it. Who have you got on here? You got Billy Cobham on drums, John Tropea on guitar, so those kind of jazz fusion players, and just laid back, funky grooves all the way through. This is one I had been seeing people post for quite a long time. I've been kind of looking out for a copy myself, never saw it until I walked into one of my local record stores and they had a copy quite reasonably priced. It is George Benson, White Rabbit. I think this is also early 70s on this one, 1972-ish I think. CTI label. White CTI label. Actually still has the inner sleeve, and just you can tell right away on the cover here the lineup of players: Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Hubert Laws, Airto Moreira on percussion, and on it goes. Billy Cobham on drums again. So those typical jazz fusion players. So I was expecting the typical kind of jazz guitar with a bit of fusion elements, but he adds actually a lot of surprising kind of Spanish and flamenco touches on this, starting right off on the first track, which is White Rabbit, the Jefferson Airplane song, almost unrecognizable with the flamenco guitar until that familiar dum-da-dum bass line starts kicking in. So very nice album, nice gatefold, heavy cardstock here. Excellent album. Next up, getting into the record fair finds. I picked up this one. Got this fairly cheap, a little bit of cover wear, but otherwise in excellent shape. Spanish Grease by Willie Bobo. Mid-60s, I think, on this one. Also a Creed Taylor production, pre-CTI label. This is a Latin boogaloo mixed with jazz, mixed with R&B, mixed with soul. So He's got covers of Hurt So Bad, the Little Anthony and the Imperials song, It's Not Unusual, well known for the Tom Jones version, of course. Ruby and the Romantics, Our Day Will Come, and just smoking Latin grooves on there. That one is on the Verve label. Just beautiful condition on this one. I got this really cheap, as I said. And even still includes, like the other one, still includes the inner sleeve. Next up, also got this one very cheap, right as I was about to leave the record fair actually. It kind of made my rounds a couple of times and was getting ready to go, and this was one of the last sellers I checked. He happened to have Marvin Gaye, Trouble Man. Nice gatefold Canadian pressing. A little bit of ring wear, otherwise in perfect shape. Got this for $10 actually, really cheap. And it's Canadian pressing on Tamla Motown. Excellent, excellent condition. Probably pretty well known here. It's a score to a blaxploitation movie. Mostly instrumental on here. Marvin adds a few kind of light vocals here and there. I guess the big one on here is T Plays It Cool, which is funky, funky, funky. Speaking of funky, also picked this one up. Parliament, Up for the Downstroke. Cover kind of looks like it's seen a party or two, but the vinyl is super clean on this one. That is on Casablanca, Smoking Man label, I guess that's called. 1974. Title track. If you're not up and moving around while you're listening to that, you may need medical attention. I was actually eating my lunch when I spun this one. Still had to be up on my feet. The rest of the album, though, there's some surprising downbeat textures, I would say. A bit of menace, undercurrent of darkness on some of the tracks, particularly on side 2. There's one long track on side 1 called The Goose, which almost anticipates that 80s funk sound with that kind of tense, almost paranoid feeling of it. Got kind of that breathless sexuality that Prince would develop further early in the 80s. And just, yeah, it's a little bit darker textures. A couple of kind of trippy elements here and there. Like that long track, The Goose, goes on and on with just kind of the rhythm repeating itself off into almost kind of a dub-wise oblivion. Kind of, I wouldn't say quite psychedelic, but definitely kind of trippy. Wicked fine. Don't see much P-Funk stuff around at all in my area. Got that pretty reasonably priced. Another one I snapped up as soon as I saw it was Samande, Promised Heights. This is also from that magic year of 1974. I was just a wee lad at the time these records were coming out. See the gatefold there. Samande were originally formed in London, UK, with members from various parts of the Caribbean, and they blend kind of R&B, funk, rock, and some reggae and Caribbean elements into what they called Naya Rock, after the Nyabingi drums in reggae, which were derived from African percussion and are very spiritual in nature. So they add some of that kind of percussive techniques in a few of their songs. This is their third album. I have the first. I'm on the lookout for the second one now. But just never see their stuff in my area. Kind of an unfortunate bit of writing on the cover, but vinyl is clean as a whistle. This was actually recorded partly in the UK in Wembley and partly at Chess Studios in Chicago, with a bit of a blues undercurrent throughout the tracks, as you would expect would be permeating the walls in a place like that. And interestingly on this one, this is on the Janus label, 1974, and there's some writing on the label as well where it appears to say Ron-Lou, which is kind of interesting to me because Ron Lou with a hyphen spelled exactly like that was the name of a label in Canada, a record label in the mid-70s, I guess. Only released a few things. Released the landmark Stranger Cole album, Forward in the Land of Sunshine. I think there may have also been a record shop in Toronto, by the same guy at one point. I'm not sure on that, but kind of interesting. Might have been from his personal collection or passed through his shop at one time. Last up, I was kind of looking around for reggae. That's always my first look when I make my first turn around the room at the record fairs. Did not find much this time. I was kind of disappointed. There was only one piece that I snapped up, and it is a various artists compilation on the Studio One label out of Jamaica called Reggae-Matic Sounds. This is from 1970. You can tell this is seen a few years, and it is on the red Studio One label. Nice, you can see that bumpy texture there. Got a few marks on it, plays perfectly well, nice heavy pressing. This is a various artists compilation, as I said. Studio One put out quite a few of these. The Studio One label, I've probably talked about it several times before. Kind of the Motown of Jamaica. A lot of artists got their start here. And this is a mix of instrumentals by the Studio One house band of the time, variously credited as the Sound Dimension or the Brentford All-Stars, mixed with some an equal amount of vocal tracks. There's one by the Heptones doing the Impressions' Choice of Colors. There's one just credited to the Sir Coxsone Singers. Sir Coxsone is the nickname of Clement Seymour Dodd, or Sir Coxsone, the founder of Studio One, kind of the Jamaican Berry Gordy. And the other vocals are credited to the Freedom Singers, which was just kind of an ad hoc group of basically whoever was available in the studio to cut a track. And interestingly, there's a couple by Larry Marshall on here. You can immediately recognize his lead vocal. He was, as well as a recording artist, in 1968, actually he recorded what's considered by some to be the first true reggae song, called Nanny Goat, which was released by Studio One. He was also working as a bit of in-house arranger and recording engineer. He was cutting to tape some of the classic songs that were being recorded right at this time, which was kind of a golden era for the label. He recorded Dennis Brown singing No Man is an Island, I think one of his very first records. Also Freddie McKay, Picture on the Wall, and just classic songs like that. But here the Freedom Singers are covering the Melodians' Sweet Sensation, and you can tell that right away that's Larry Marshall on lead. Very kind of late rock steady, early reggae era vibe. Also does a cover of Little Roy's Bongo Naya, possibly a different lead singer on that one, and Toots and the Maytals' Monkey Man with again Larry on lead. So just some very nice stuff. There's a cover of the Nilsson song Everybody's Talking on here, and just great Studio One vibes of the time. So that's what I got for you today, guys. So not a big record fair haul, but all quality, I think. There will be another one coming up very shortly, so hopefully I'll have more to share with you then. So thanks for watching, as always. Appreciate your comments. Take care, guys.